My grandpa was, to say, a strange man. He would always look around frantically, like he was being hunted. Whenever we were in an enclosed space, he would scream to be let out if we were alone, and if we weren't, he would cry silently. My mom said it was because of PTSD and paranoia, because of his time serving as a tank operator during World War II. But, my mom says, they only started really developing after the moon landing. He worked for NASA, and all the time, in enclosed cubicles must have brought everything back, she thought. She was wrong. NASA and the US government would have you believe those minutes of silence when Neil Armstrong landed on the moon were safety preparations to go outside. Conspiracy theorists believe that they saw aliens, and that's why they did such a quick moonwalk. They are both wrong. NASA is telling a lie, and the theorists are insane. The truth is why we can't go back there. The truth is why we must go back there. The truth is our future. My grandpa worked at NASA for the Apollo missions. His time as a tank operator and technician was useful to NASA for rockets and the immense vehicles used in transporting them. He worked long hours and nights for years, all while getting very little pay. His reward was being in mission control the day the rocket was launched, and the day they landed on the moon. The rocket launch is unimportant. It's the day Armstrong landed on the moon that's important. When I was 26, my grandpa asked for me to come back home. Just for a day. I had gotten used to his PTSD by now, and I refused, knowing that it was just his memories resurfacing. The conversation went like this. Hey, Patrick. Can you come home for a few days? I need to talk to you. It's important. I sighed, and responded. Sorry Opa, we're German. But our family moved to the States in 1886. I can't. I have a dentist appointment. He cut me off. What your mom's been telling you is wrong. It's about NASA and the moon. I need to talk to you. I hesitantly said yes, and hung up. He never talked about his time at NASA. He would always say it was boring, stupid, or he would start getting really paranoid. So this was certainly a surprise. The next day, after a grueling 6-hour drive back to the family home, he greeted me at the front door and ushered me quickly into his room. He had a white canvas on the wall, a projector, and 2 tapes on the bed. The first was labeled The Landing and the second was labeled Neil Armstrong. They were dusty, as if they've been sitting in a locked box for years. He sat down, and then he spoke. In the 1960s, I worked at NASA. You know that. You know how I was in mission control the days of launch and landing. He paused before I said yes. He continued. What we saw, what really happened on the moon is secret. What we saw is so impossible, so fundamentally wrong and scary it gave everyone in their night terrors. What we saw we can't explain. What we saw can only be shown. He hobbled over the projector. While he got it working, he asked me to put in the tape labeled The Landing into Greg machine. He then started it, after saying this is the unedited version. It started off grainy, before going into clear images. It was the underside of the rocket landing on the moon, but it was really high up, like you or me have ever seen it. After a minute, my grandfather stopped the recording, and replayed it. Look for it, he said. The recording began the same as the last time. As my eyes strained from not blinking, I saw it. It looked like the moon, but it just was out of place. It looked just odd and out of place. I saw it. What is it? I spoke. My grandfather nodded and took the tape out. He reached and grabbed the next one, but didn't put it in. It's what we saw. It's what gave me my paranoia. He said solemnly. He started the next tape. It was Neil Armstrong's body camera. It showed him stepping off the ship, saying the line. It was silent, of course, and then heading off. After a while, he reached the thing. I can't explain it. I can't. What I had initially typed up didn't do it justice. It was terrifying. It gave me a sense of fear and dread I had never experienced. It was just the worst thing I've ever seen. It was small and square, and built using the bodies of humans. They were all screaming. Their faces and bodies contorted, and they were there for so long they looked like the dust that surrounded the thing. You could see the eyes. They all were looking at the camera, like they were alive. Like one of those paintings in a museum. The camera walked into the shrine. Yeah, a shrine. There was something slightly raised above the floor in the center of the shrine. A white glove brushed off the moon dust and it uncovered itself. The camera shuffled left. Everything turned black before 2 flashes. My grandpa looked up at me. "This is why I'm the way I am." He walked over to the projector and rewinded it to the 2 flashes. The first showed a plaque. It said, written in English, 100 years left. The clock is ticking. My grandpa went to the second flash. It was the camera looking up at a chained something. I can't describe it. All I can say for certain that it was an alien. It was chained to the ceiling and right above the floor, and in the flash, it moved. Its mouth opened into what I would only describe as a grin. Its arms and legs moved in the shackle. Its face stared at the camera, and all in a second or two, my grandpa looked at me. "You know now," he said. He gave me the tapes and told me to put them and the projector in my car. I never saw my grandpa alive again. He died just a few days later in a cold-blooded murder. But the police won't take it on, saying that it's not suspicious at all and that he died of natural causes. He was shot in the head twice. A friend told me yesterday that some guys in suits were asking where I live. I know who they are. They want to hide this secret. They need to cover their butts from the public. Keep the public calm while they hold on to their power for the next 50 years. Pathetic. We have to go to the moon to further humanity. We can't go to the moon as then the world would know. Goodbye, everyone. 50 years left. The clock is ticking. Enjoy life while you can.